Hello everyone. So today I'm doing a review of The Fall of Numenor, which is this book here by J.R. Tolkien, edited by Brian Sibley. This is a newer book, one that I wish I knew about a lot sooner, because I've been going through Lord of the Rings for the, fifth or sixth time at this point. And I've been really enjoying going through it again and talking to my friend Colin and, going through each book with someone who hasn't read Lord of the Rings before. And I've been really wanting to, get into the supplemental material and get into, Silmarillion and this book, Beren and Luthien, and The Fall of Gondolin, which I've actually read and done a review on for the channel, and I love that book. It was great. It answered a lot of questions that I had during the first stage, but I still don't really know much about the first stage, because a lot of that information is in the Silmarillion, which I will one day read. I promise I'll read it this year. That is a promise. You can hold me to it. But this book here is all about the Second Age, which starts with the creation of Numenor, which is basically like an island nation that rises out of the water, that the god Awa, I think it's called, the main deity within the Middle-earth mythology. That entity gives basically, like the humans, the Gondorians, like a new sort of place to be, and gives them near immortality. Not exactly like elvish immortality, but for humans, very long life, 400, 500 years, 600 if they're really stout. But the story basically recounts sort of the rise and literal fall of Numenor, because as you can see on the cover, that's a lot of water. It sinks. This entire island sinks at some point, and that sort of marks the end of the Second Age. It sort of marks the beginning of the war against Sauron, because during this time we have Sauron. This is after Morgoth has been killed or defeated, and we have probably my favorite story, storyline, character match that I think is my favorite in a very long time, and is the character of Aldarion and Erendis, who are a husband-wife duo who are of the Numenorians. And they get married, and Aldarion, he's like a sailor. He's always sailing to Middle-earth from Numenor, and he's pissing his wife off so much, because he'll leave for 7 to 10 years at a time, but they can live up to 400 years old, or 600 years old even. And so he's kind of like, oh yeah, that's fine, I can just disappear for, decades at a time, and no one will care, because it's such a little amount of time anyways. And his wife, though, is a half-elf, so she doesn't have that lineage, or that immortality, that kind of half-immortality, because she's growing up, and they have a daughter together. And when the daughter turns 3 years old, Aldarion, he sells off, and he promises to come back within 3 years. He promises Erendis, and he doesn't come back. He doesn't send a letter. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't tell anybody anything. And it ends up that he was dealing with the growing threat of Sauron, because he's talking about sort of the growing shadow in the east. It's kind of where Mordor is, because during this time when he's sailing and stuff, Sauron is taking over Mordor. He chooses that as his location. He builds Barad-dûr, which I didn't know was built literally with the ring, and that's why in the movie it falls too. It's not just I don't know, I just felt like that was a illusion or metaphor type of thing that Peter Jackson did, but it's from Tolkien. It was just something surprising. But I really enjoyed reading everything. I could go on all day about everything, but the main point is that it tells the entire thousands of years of history of the Second Age. And Numenor falls, as the title suggests, and then we get the rest of the Second Age, which is all elves and dwarves versus orcs and Sauron. And that's kind of like the prologue of the movies, if you recall, is when, Elrond and Isildur are fighting, and you have Gil-galad, and you have all these different, fantastic characters. And I never knew this, but this book explained it because they finally put it in a chronology. I'm really happy for the editor, too, because Christopher Tolkien did not work on this. He had died before this had come out, and so someone else edited this book, and they put it very well. They succinctly grabbed the latest, material he had on the subject of Numenor, and he re-edited it together and kind of just had it in a perfect way that made it really understandable and line by line, what happened, and subject by subject. So you get all the answers with for me, I was where was the woodland elves from near the Misty Mountains, and not the Misty Mountains, but Erebor, kind of where Legolas and his clan is at. Where have they been during this entire time of War of the Ring and stuff? And this book answers, they've been at war this entire time with Sauron anyways. And I understand why Peter Jackson didn't include it in the movies, but I would love to see, instead of a stupid fucking Hunt for Gollum movie, I want to see that side of the conflict. Show me parts that weren't shown during Lord of the Rings. Have that be the first project, because you can still have these legacy characters, but we've never seen it. And Hunt for Gollum was explained in 2 sentences in Lord of the Rings. We don't need a movie for that, in my opinion. But I loved this, and during that time, also, the woodland elves, they were broken off from the Black Gate, of Mordor, and they were kind of driven off along the mountain range, and the dead marshes, that's the dead bodies in there. That's kind of that side of the conflict of the prologue of the movie, was sort of all those elves that were shooting all the bows, they went, to here, and then they just had a really, just awful time because they got overrun, and, dead marshes happened, and that's just a really fun section of the book, I feel but very dreary. But yeah, this was just such an exciting book. I'm just buzzing with excitement because I read this in one day yesterday, and as of filming, it is July 1st that I'm doing this review, and I loved this book. I could not stop reading it. It was such a quick read, and you have Alan Lee illustrations throughout, so every other page has a little, drawing by him that's, really great and looks, amazing. Great, colors and, visual style. It's Alan Lee. He's, fantastic, but my voice is getting dry, but this is such an amazing book. I think people should start here. If you're a big fan of the movies and you've read the books already, this is the next step to go. And then do a reread and then of Lord of the Rings, because there's never too many reads of Lord of the Rings in my opinion, especially if you have the Andy Serkis audiobooks. But I think just maybe I'll do a video. I'm gonna just do a video on a Tolkien reading order based on what I feel would be the best based off of my experience and thoughts and so on and so forth. But that's it for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.